Looks like it's time. All right, looks like it's time to start. Well, we would like to welcome everyone to our Maximize Profit by Streamlining Pre-Construction Through Technology webinar. My name is Josiah Chachua, and I'm part of our client success team. And really excited to present you the information we have today. We are going to be giving you guys an overview just of the pre-construction capabilities of RedTeam Flex, specifically through cost estimating, bid packages, bid solicitations, and bid leveling. So we're really excited to show you a lot of the cool features we have in the system. A few call outs just before we get started. We are recording this webinar. So at the end of this session, we will be sending a link to the recording to your email. And we also have disabled the chat function, but don't worry, we are really excited to answer your questions. So we have a Q&A feature through Zoom that we're asking that you use so that way we can answer all your questions at the end of the program. So that's all of our housekeeping for today. So to get started, who do I have with me today? Well, let me introduce you to our wonderful team. The Dream Team, joined by Michael Wright. He's our founder and chief strategy officer. And we'll be having a nice little conversation just to talk about pre-construction today and just ways that you can get the most out of that whole process. And we also are joined by Neil Lachman Singh, who is one of our subject matter experts, and he'll be actually demoing RedTeam Flex for us today at the end of our conversation. So please stick around for that. So, Mike, what can you tell us about RedTeam? Who is RedTeam?
Absolutely. Thank you and welcome everybody to what we hope is a valuable conversation for you today. So we're going to be talking about streamlining pre-construction through technology. And this is not just to protect profit. You know, contractors often think about protecting profit, but we're going to talk about how to use pre-construction to actually drive profitability for your organizations. And as Josiah's mentioned in his gracious kickoff, I am Michael Wright. I'm the founder and chief strategy officer of RedTeam Software. And if anyone is unfamiliar at all with RedTeam, I think perhaps the most important thing for you to know about RedTeam and about our team is that we come from industry. You know, RedTeam is a product that was born from need. You know, Josiah has himself worked in the construction industry as an assistant project manager, project engineer, and a project accountant, I believe. And as you can see by my gray hair, I've been doing it a little bit longer than Josiah. So I have been a commercial GC for about 30 years at this point. It's this hands-on experience that our team has and the time we've spent walking in your shoes in commercial construction that really makes a difference. It makes a difference in the way it informs the way our product works and functions. And it also makes a difference in how our team relates to your team, the way we support our software and the way we support you in the industry. You know, this is a tough business. We get it. We've been there. And that makes a difference, I think, for us. And it makes a difference, I think, for our clients. This is RedTeam. So Josiah, back to you.
Yeah, no, but what gray hairs? I don't know what you're talking about, Mike. No gray hairs there, right? But just to kind of continue the conversation, you know, what we're hoping to accomplish today, we have a few learning objectives. At the end of our conversation, we're really hoping that you're going to walk away knowing just really the primary reasons for using construction management software, mostly to be able to engage, win, you know, negotiate, plan, and manage successful projects of all types. We're also hoping that you're going to know and understand the pre-construction capabilities of RedTeam Flex, including cost estimating, bid packages, bid solicitation, bid leveling, and also proposal pricing. And finally, we're hoping to also give you some insight into the features in RedTeam Flex that enable adoption and deliver desktop class performance in the cloud. So that's what we're hoping to show you today. Just to kind of get to know you guys a little bit, we have a poll question here that we're going to be asking you. So we want to know, how are you creating your estimates now? Are you currently using Excel? Are you using Word, a third-party estimating software, or do you have another construction management solution that you are currently using? Just to kind of help us get to know your solutions. And as you let us know your existing process, let's dive into one of the solutions we have available to create and manage pre-construction. So we're going to gather those polls and we're going to release them in a second. But Mike, let's dive in.
All right. So I think to set a little context, the functionality, the capabilities, and the features we talk about today are part of these pre-construction workflows. These are part of what we call our RedTeam Flex platform. RedTeam Flex is a complete, highly configurable commercial construction platform that enables our clients to manage their projects from the very beginning in the pre-construction phase all the way through final closeout. Now we're going to focus on pre-construction today, and we're also going to touch at the end on some of the key benefits of managing your pre-construction workflows inside of a comprehensive platform. So next slide. Looks like we have some results already. Josias, were you going to cover the results?
Yeah, so from what we're looking at, it looks like the majority of our participants, or people who have joined us today, it says 57% of you have used Excel. So right, a lot of you are still using manual methods, and then we have about 29% who are using a third-party estimating software, and then 14% who selected other. So definitely appreciate you guys taking the time to put those selections in. And those that are using the manual methods, we're really excited to show you some other ways that you can kind of get more out of your pre-construction method. Specifically, what we have here is some of our driving profitability options. Mike, what can you tell us about some of these things?
Sure. Well, before I jump into that, I want to note that this is really a timely conversation. Um, Many of you have noticed over the years that there's been a distinctive shift from hard bid or fixed price project delivery to what we call a negotiated or CMAR projects. Um, that has been driven by a lot of things. I think it was generally the industry trend for many years. I think pandemic and supply chain disruption and extraordinary demand that we've seen in the last few years has actually driven that trend a little more aggressively than it would have otherwise. But compared to our hard bid fixed price projects that we're all also familiar with, negotiated project delivery methods deliver more predictable outcomes. And so by having predictable outcomes to some degree means that we've got more or less profit perhaps than the fixed price alternatives. And so all the contractors on this call, of course, we all think we're above average. And so, some of us who've moved into a portfolio of projects that are largely negotiated, there is some lament for loss of profit. And we kind of dismiss the improved predictability, and we're just looking at ways to maybe improve our profit a little bit. Negotiated work is systemically collaborative, and in that collaborative process, software enables us to make that process more efficient. So it's technology that enables us to recapture some of that lost profitability by making these highly collaborative engagements more efficient. Efficient collaboration is something that makes sense really to every stakeholder on the project. So today we're going to be looking at 5 core capabilities, and frankly, the first 4 of these, you actually don't need software to do this. And so if you're one of those companies that isn't using software to automate these core workflows, you should be doing these first 4 anyway. Number 5 is something where we're going to touch on at the end, which is really one of the key benefits of using integrated software. But the first 4, these are critical workflows that your team, your pre-construction teams should be following right now. So number 1, professional proposals for pre-construction services. We do support the complete production of proposal documents ready for signature. It's a core part of what RedTeam does. We produce documents and proposals for fixed price jobs, CMAR jobs, changes, and also for pre-construction services. This may sound like a segue, but one of the things I notice about contractors all the time when I look at their marketing materials and I look at their websites, everyone likes to say how they exceed expectations of their clients. And I would say it's been on my website probably for many, many years. But I don't know about you, but I've had some clients with really high expectations. And so and quite honestly, over 30 years, I'm not sure I've always exceeded my customers' expectations in that regard. So it begs the question, though, is how do you establish the expectations that your team is committed to exceeding? Well, the way to do that is with contracts and proposals. And as we've shifted into more and more negotiated work, oftentimes we're operating on engagements where what we're doing is being delivered pursuant to what we call a pre-construction services agreement. And the key to setting expectations is really being explicit. And being explicit is things like, how many cost and pricing scenarios will your team produce? How many design changes will you look at? How many meetings? How much time? What duration? Many of you on this call have, maybe in the last couple of years have been repricing the same project, every 3 or 4 months. And it's not a great situation to be in, and we don't want to ghost our clients. That's not a good business practice. So setting expectations up front is really the key to really meeting expectations and even exceeding them.
Yeah, big time. Think about the consistency along with your proposals. Imagine you're presenting to your clients the consistent, streamlined way of presenting your proposals each time the same way with just little effort. Having it all in one place, it really streamlines the process big time.
So I'm going to jump into negotiated pricing and establish negotiated pricing, including unit prices, overhead rates, supplemental markups, and fee. This is actually closely related to number one. When you do a pre-construction services agreement or a proposal, I think it's really important that you establish these things up front. These are basic contract terms. Quite frankly, if you're in the pre-construction phase and you can't come to an agreement with a client as to the rates and factors, the fee rate, or even the calculation of the fee, whether it's a percentage of cost or a percentage of price, it certainly would have you wonder how well you're going to arrive at a guaranteed max price for the bulk of the work once the pre-construction phase is over. But this is really important, not just for CMAR projects. I would highly recommend that you have a qualification even on your hard bid work, where you're already quantifying unit prices and markups, because it's going to be a lot easier to negotiate those things up front at the beginning of the project, rather than when you're sitting across the table from the owner and the architect with a request for a change order.
Yeah, yeah. Special pricing is really important, especially and when you're using one platform, all the fees you negotiated, they're available with ease of use. And in our system, you can actually select them by role. So your estimators that are working on the same job or bidding on the project, they can actually abide by those agreed upon rates without having to revisit the master agreement. And so with Red Team, you actually do all the work for you. And so a lot of us, a lot of times in this industry, there's some turnover. So imagine in that situation, if you have turnover, you won't have to show them what the prices are for the clients. It's built into the system, and all your rates, markups, your fees, it's all part of your project settings right from the get-go. So clients, I know from the conversations I've been having, they really appreciate having the flexibility of knowing that they're configuring their projects and knowing that once it's set up, it's not something they have to revisit, and every line item will be accounted for based on their project settings.
So number three, let's talk about value engineering and target value design. And quite honestly, I think over the years, we've had many, many different names for these core workflows. The bottom line is, as contractors, we spend a fair amount of time estimating cost and pricing. One of the important things to always keep in mind is cost and price are two different numbers. One of the unique aspects of the RedTeam Flex platform is our pre-construction functionality has the ability to actually calculate cost and price simultaneously. The shift to CMAR projects has amplified the need for this because we're doing so many more cost and pricing iterations. It's very important that your team truly understand the profitability of the work. Profit is not fee. Fee is a contract term. Markups are not profit. Markups are also contract terms. By applying all these in a very structured way, negotiated pricing, rates, and factors, by doing this consistently in every iteration, your team will fully understand what the profit implications are of each time you propose this work.
Yeah. Well, what can you say about bid solicitations?
Bid solicitation is an important process. It's largely been commoditized to some degree. There are a lot of standalone point solutions for bid solicitation. Some of the unique capabilities in RedTeam Flex is really around bid leveling and what we call the bid analytics. A lot of systems are able to do bid leveling by adding amounts for exclusions. One of the key things that RedTeam provides is the ability not only to evaluate exclusions, but also to evaluate and measure bid scope overlap. It's a key functionality in the platform, and later when we get down to the demo section, I think Neil's going to demonstrate some of that for us.
Yeah, I agree. That scope overlap feature is really big because, being able to solicit quotes from your sub, comparing them side by side, and then in the end, being able to select the best price. That's, I know from the conversations I've had, has really been able to, we've already been able to hear from our clients that it's saving them a lot of time. And it specifically with the scope overlap feature that you mentioned, allowing you to save money by knowing which scopes are covered by which subcontractor is huge, making it so that you're not double paying for the same features. So I know we've heard a lot of really high praises for that specifically since it's been released. So then, when it comes to the budget and change management, what can you say about that?
Well, the reality is change management is an important point that you brought up. I know a lot of the folks on this call are from the pre-construction teams, but the reality is every project has a CM component to it. Every change order, almost by definition in the contract, is a CM, is a mini CM proposal. And so our operations teams are actually doing a fair amount of pre-construction work themselves. And so the capability you see in our platform product for pre-construction applies also to every change order. And we're going to talk about that in the demonstration, and we're going to talk about that as one of the key features that we offer.
Yeah, no, that's great.
Regarding number 5, streamline handoff of budgets and quotes to construction operations. The day we get a GMP amendment signed, or the day a contract is awarded to our teams, one of the first things that we do in pre-construction is prepare to hand off that project information to the construction ops teams. And how many of you do this the day that the award is actually made? I already know the answer to that. Almost none of you. And the reason is this is not a simple process. If you're doing things with spreadsheets and other ad hoc standalone applications, inevitably the process of handoff from pre-construction to construction requires a fair amount of gathering up information and getting it organized so that it's coherent and readable and understandable by your ops teams. One of the great things about using RedTeam Flex and the pre-construction functionality in RedTeam Flex is that very simple one-click handoff from pre-construction to construction. It's something that's going to make your day. Quite honestly, there's so much value created in just the handoff process. It'd be a great reason just to use the platform for that capability alone.
Yeah, the handoff is key. We saw based on the poll, we have 57% of our users, or those that are joining us today, that are handling their budgets in a spreadsheet. And so how often can you say that you've had an error or you've had an issue with one of your revisions that you made and it made its way up to your ops team? Think about all the struggles and the challenges that came with that error and the huge impact downstream that might have done. Well, like Mike mentioned, being able to have your budget directly tied to your SOV and RedTeam, it really ensures that everyone is on the same page and looking at the same numbers and same data. The visibility is really the biggest thing I can really highlight when it comes to your PMs, your ops team, everyone involved, being able to understand the work that your estimator is doing within the software. It's really game changing. It makes a huge difference. So definitely see how that's driving profitability for your team. So with that being said, now we do want to kind of get a little bit more insight into your pain points. And so we actually are going to launch another poll question for you guys to answer. What we're asking you is, what is your biggest pain point with your current construction or pre-construction workflows? Is it errors with manual workflows? Is it inefficiencies with multiple solutions and duplicate entry? Or is it a lack of real-time collaboration internally with your bidders? Or is it time wasted creating cost estimates? What would you say is some of your biggest pain points? And we'll give you a few seconds to answer that for us. But it allows us to kind of get to know what some of your struggles are. And then what we're going to also highlight next is how RedTeam Flex, and even more so, can address some of these for you.
Excellent. Thanks, Josiah. We talked a lot about the core workflows for pre-construction. And now what we want to do is touch on 5 things that are really going to make using RedTeam Flex a great option for your team and really an enjoyable way to actually deliver your pre-construction deliverables. Ease of use and peace of mind. One of the first things of these 5 that I think makes a big difference in our platform is our spreadsheet style interface. And why spreadsheet style? It's because, quite frankly, we all use spreadsheets. We love our spreadsheets. And when we talk to people who've been in pre-construction for some time, inevitably, if they're using spreadsheets, they've got spreadsheets that they've used for years, and at some point, these spreadsheets become almost like family members. We know where they're good. We know the weak points. We love them for the pluses, and we accept some of the weaknesses of those spreadsheets. And I can tell you, I personally love spreadsheets. I've told people that, one of my favorite things in the world is opening up a brand new spreadsheet, because it feels like a moment filled with possibility of taking something I know and not only proving it to myself, but proving it to others. So spreadsheets are definitely something that we've all grown up with. And because of that, we're all very familiar with them. And so when new users log into RedTeam Flex and they go into the pre-construction area of our platform, and they see something that is very familiar and approachable, like a spreadsheet, makes it easy to navigate. They know that they can click on numbers and immediately edit. Everything is saved instantly. And so it's a very approachable, it's a process that enables you to onboard your team members onto our platform very easily. And with that, even though we love our spreadsheets, we also know the angst and the concern we have for formula errors. So one of the key benefits of having a spreadsheet on RedTeam Flex is the formulas are absolutely unbreakable. And that's critically important for pre-construction. In fact, I would say pre-construction and sending out numbers on proposals is probably one of the most existentially risky things that we do as business people and as contractors. So it's just critically important that we can completely trust our numbers and our estimates for cost and pricing. Josias, I'm sure you've had that experience. Before you click send, everyone's double checking everything. Sometimes you go back and you even look and you verify all the formulas. You may even copy the formula down just to make sure you haven't missed a row. I think we've all had that experience.
Well, yeah, you're bringing back some of my PTSD from using them spreadsheets. Definitely, I know everyone on this call can also relate to that. Going into your spreadsheet, the formulas have changed, and how much anxiety comes with that. It's a huge pain point for sure.
So number 3, robust search for bidders, including qualifications, experience, ratings, distances from job sites. Searching for bidders is really how you build your team. It's how you start visualizing the construction process. What does success look like? You start envisioning how each team member contributes to the success of your work. And if you're like me, if you search on Google for things, inevitably I probably put in a search string 3, 4, 5 times before I start seeing the results that I want. And so, as you can imagine, it could be quite complex if you have sophisticated criteria for selecting. You've got vendors and subcontractors that have different strengths and weaknesses, qualifications, credentials, distance from the job site. That may be a key differentiator for making your project successful. And so having robust search capability to search for bidders for your projects is really a key functionality. Neil's going to demonstrate that for us during the demonstration part of our session this morning. And I think you're going to see how very quickly your team members, even if they're not database analysts or computer people, they can very quickly click on the appropriate criteria and churn through hundreds and thousands of subcontractor options to really find the best team members for your project.
Yeah, I can definitely chime in on that and agree with that. Where I came from previously, we did a lot of government contracted work, so we had specific requirements that we had to follow for vendors we worked with. And so the level of details that you can use for the search feature, you mentioned the word robust for RedTeam Flex, it would have been a huge game changer. It would have made the process so much easier for us just by selecting one of those qualifications, either by distance or the type of work that they do, would save you a lot of time when it comes to actually soliciting your quotes from your subs.
Awesome. I alluded to advanced analytics for bid evaluation when we're talking about capabilities. And I mentioned that we have the ability not just to level up bids for exclusions and inclusions. But we also handle scenarios where you might split a bid package. Traditional systems, if all you're doing is adding for things that are excluded, the first time you split a bid package, that whole process breaks down. All your bid leveling breaks down. RedTeam Flex supports very sophisticated parsing out of bid packages and the award to multiple bidders. We can even select bidders and break assemblies in the middle. And so it's a very flexible process. Why is this valuable? For you listening, I know you're thinking, well, the math really isn't that hard. The challenge is that the math may not be difficult, but it's voluminous. And so when you're talking about cost and price and evaluating and leveling bidders for a single bid package, oftentimes we're doing things like wagging the impact when we've got scope overlap. With RedTeam Flex, you can immediately see the adjustments you would need to make to a bidder's number for exclusions and also a scope overlap. So that's a really helpful feature. And the bid analytics, I think, is one of the key capabilities, key features in our platform. I think you're really going to like it. And Neil's going to demonstrate that later.
Yeah. And what about change management?
So last, but certainly not least, is change management. I mentioned earlier that your operations teams are actually doing quite a bit of pre-construction. So our change management capability in the application, we use a process that allows you to identify your subcontractors affected by a change. And using that information, we instantly blow out a cost estimate template using all the right cost codes. We immediately insert those affected vendors as potential bidders to a bid package specifically designed and created for soliciting the cost and time impact associated with a change in scope. It's something that is incredibly valuable, incredibly efficient for your ops teams, and that's going to be part of our demo later.
Yeah, excited to show that. I know in the past for me, I can still remember the process for where I came from. It was disconnected because for the change orders, we had them in multiple places. We'd have them saved in, on the cloud. We had them on our shared drive. And sometimes since it was not connected, it was really a challenge to be able to kind of get all those pieces to connect. So seeing how clients, you can really have a truly collaborative and guided experience when it comes to our change requests, it would have saved me a lot of time. So I know that it's going to save you a lot of time. So what we're going to show you now, we're going to release the poll results so that way you can kind of see, just to kind of talk through some of the pain points that you guys kind of experience. It looks like a lot of you guys can relate with a lot of these things. So we have with the errors with manual workflow, 17% of you selected that option. But with the second one, inefficiencies with multiple solutions and duplicate entry, I think we all share the same pain with that one. 67% of us voted for that option, which we can see that's a really common theme here. The time wasted creating cost estimates was about 17%. So we see we're all in kind of the same boat when it comes to some of our pains and struggles, and we love to hear some of these other struggles as we continue. So right now, what we're going to do is we're actually going to pass it back over to Neil, and he's going to show us what that looks like in RedTeam Flex.
Hi, thanks, Josias. And once again, my name is Neil. I'm one of the subject matter experts at RedTeam. We're going to go through the RedTeam Flex and take a look at the cost estimate, bid packages, and lastly, change orders. These are pre-recorded though to keep us on time because we don't want to go down that rabbit hole of exploring a feature and we're over time. So we are going to head directly into cost estimate. Now, as Mike said, our cost estimate here in RedTeam Flex is designed to look just like a spreadsheet. So you'll notice it looks like that right now. And as we add cost codes that I clicked there in the top, our cost code menu does allow you to move it around and reposition it as you see fit. And then adding them, we've added a search feature. So if you're looking for a specific cost code, you can enter the name or the cost code number and go directly to it, no having to go through your entire cost code list. And then once you select one or as many as you need, you can also remove the search and go back to the main list at any time. So you don't have to keep reopening the cost code window. You can add everything you need all at once. So this is just me showing as we go through. I'm just going to add a couple more from the longer list here. And just to show that it's still putting them. As I'm putting those check marks in, it's still putting in. And one last time, I'm going to do a search. And you can see right up there at the top, it's showing you what you already have. Then hit add, and it drops them in. The phase in there is going to have it in the phase 1 I have there, and then I'm opening up the assemblies. So those are the assembly items. I know we call them by different names throughout construction, but for us, that's just breaking apart each cost code to give a little more information about what specifically you're estimating on. Now, inside of here, as we're looking at the very spreadsheet looking interface, anything that is blue you can click on. So I just changed a number earlier. I'm changing the category, making this a labor estimate, changing out the hours by the unit measure, putting in how many hours we're actually going to use it for. So let's say it's 35 hours, and then putting in the how much it's going to cost per hour. And then you notice on the right side, it's calculating immediately. You don't have to wait, hit save, do anything else. It's going to show you immediately how much that calculated to be and put all the information total at the bottom. So that's what makes everything quick and easy, and with those unbreakable formulas that Mike was talking about earlier. Now we do have the assembly narratives. What this is to give some more context. If you want to add some more specific information about that assembly item, you could put, what the scope is on it, who's going to be doing it, or anything you want to show up on a proposal or internal. It could be either way. We actually have a button there that says show on proposal. So if you want to keep it internal, you can turn that off. If you leave it on, it will show up on the proposal we're going to see later, so anyone can see it for your owner. And there we go. And it auto saves. So the moment you finish working on it, it's in there. You don't have to hit a save button or anything. Any changes you make will be saved in the assembly narrative. And lastly, we do have the supplemental markups. Those can be added just like the cost codes. So you see me hitting the plus up there and going to the add supplemental markup. And these are a test database, so they're not real ones, but just to give you guys a general idea of what you would see, hitting add adds them down there, and you can automatically add any supplemental markups that you feel is important to the project, keeping everything at the right price, which I'm showing right there that the price is calculating. And lastly, we do have the price adjustment fee at the bottom that you can use as well, and based upon the type you have. There, I'm just putting in 15% and showing that there's either percent of total cost or percent of total price. We have both options to go ahead and change the total price out. All right, anything you want to add before we move on to the next one, Mike?
No, that looked great.
Perfect. All right, next is going to be our brand new bid packages. So with this one, you can add a bid package from the cost estimate. You can add as many bid packages as you need. We have the feature where you can click up at the top and name the bid package. So I'm just naming this Floral 1 for the first phase I was working with there, but you could cut it up to be electrical, by cost division, any way that you want to do it. Then you add the due date. So this will go to all the bidders to set their due date of when bids are due, and set the requester. That'd be whoever's going to get all those notifications when a bid comes in. Special instructions will also get entered into the request for quote that you'll send out. So if you have something specific you want to send to everybody for a special instruction, you can go ahead and put that in there, and it'll go out to all of them. Next, we're going to add some cost codes. So in here, we have the ability to add cost codes, which you can actually add brand new ones that'll go into the estimate, or you can assign them. So if you know you already have in the estimate, click through, add all the ones for the phase I was working on earlier, and they show up in here. Pulls in the estimate amounts that you set up earlier. And now we have the bidders. So this is where you can have your entire bidder list. You can go through the thing by scrolling, or you could search. So if you know exactly who you want to put in there, you search for them, select them. But then what's really useful, as Mike touched on earlier, is the focused filters. So inside of here, you can select, for example, the trades. So if you have assigned specific trades that we have in the bid package to these companies or vendors, they will populate in that list. You can also set the distance. So if you know that you want them to be within 25 miles, 50 miles, however far you want them to be. You can also use, as I'm putting there, multiple qualifications. So there I have within 25 miles, and they do this type of work. So it shortened the list for me. We have qualifications you can set up by database and credentials. So this would be, general liability or any other type of credentials you have stored inside the vendor's profile that is up to date, and it'll automatically filter those for you. You don't have to go looking to see if they have one manually, just do the search. And here we have, as we add them all, at the bottom, you can change the status. Now, if you are sending out a request for quote, as they come back and say if they are going to bid or not, this will update automatically. I'm just simulating this so we can see how they can be changed and the statuses that are available. And then to enter a bid, you can either enter the total bid. So if someone sent you in a bid and you're entering it inside of here and they just gave you the total price, you can put that in there. Automatically, RedTeam Flex will break it up across all the lines. Then if you want, you can modify it to specify a certain amount for a line. And also if they're not including an item, this is where Mike talked about earlier, that you can set specific items that one vendor is doing that another vendor isn't doing on their bids, and then compare them, as we're going to see in a moment when we compare the bids. And right here, I'm just entering them in manually. So if you are breaking them all down, you're able to manually go ahead and put them there. And Mike, have anything?
Yeah, of course, we'd be encouraging you to encourage your bidders to submit their pricing electronically. But we're going to go ahead and add it manually because we know at some point many of your subcontractors may come to your office and drop off their pricing. But definitely this is something that could be highly automated.
And if they do drop it off at your office, we have an area where you can also scan it in and put it directly into the bid package here as well, if you want to memorialize that piece of paper they handed you. And we're going to see that in a moment here when we get to the vendor quotes. I'm just going to play around a little bit more with showing the statuses and then finally adding the last bid that someone just sent in late. So, we always have those last minute people. All right. And once you have them all in, you want to set them as committed. And now we open the quote card that's found at the top by hovering over the name of the vendor. The quote cards are useful here because one, you see there it has the quote option there. That quote option, you can actually, where it says select or drag file, you can add an image if you want to upload their specific document you gave them. But here you can bid level and show everyone's bids. So if you want to compare one bid to another one, you have those two up here. I have all three, and there's the excluded item. So that one is showing that they are not doing that item on their bid. So to keep that in mind, you can tell who is not doing specific work on their bid and then judge if you want to take them and select them as best. And there I'm just showing the uploading the quote, and you can select who the actual person who's a contact for this. So if you're sending out a request for quote, you can select who they are so you know who you're sending the emails to. Finally, we're just going to select one of them as select for best. So we're going to say this is the person we're awarding all the contracts to. So that'll show and lock all of it to that, and we'll update the estimate to show the agreed upon pricing. So that already came in here automatically and has shifted the pricing to match. Anything else on there on the bid leveling and bid packages, Mike?
That looks great. I mean, it illustrated perfectly how selecting a quote, selecting a bidder instantly updates your cost and price.
All right, and next we're going to show change orders. So adding a change order. First, I'm just going to jump in here and show that we have several commitments, subcontracts on file for vendors. So that's just, they exist already. We had them for the original scope, but now we're creating a brand new change order. So you do that from a contract tab, create a potential change, add a scope change name to whatever you would like it to be. And then in the cost estimate itself, it looks just like the original cost estimate. I am switching to construction management. As Mike stated earlier, every single time you do a change order, it's basically a mini construction management, and also to pull in the negotiated pricing. So we want to make sure that's there automatically. And here's our selecting the effective vendor. So this pulled all three of those vendors. We had those subcontracts we saw earlier. And the moment I hit add and put them in there, it opens up that bid package. So I'm just giving this a name in case we had to do multiples. Always good to name a bid package so you know what it is. And then it pulled in the 3 cost codes that were associated with those commitments. And on the right, we can already see that the vendors are there. Good illustration here is that I'm actually just hitting tab on the keyboard right now, not having to use the mouse. So you can tab and use your arrow keys if you don't want to touch the mouse all the time. It's another nice accessibility option for our estimates. And just
So
putting in the numbers to give you an idea.
Neil's dropping in some preliminary estimates. Maybe these are internal estimates as you discuss this with your client. And then ultimately you can send this bid package out to your vendors. They can submit their cost and price impacts back to you electronically, and you can drop in their pricing or just review what they actually submit.
Which is then you would enter in just as you're seeing me do. I'm just dropping in each one of the prices. And you'll notice we are just doing one item per each vendor. So this is going back to the fact that you can split the actual items in a bid package to different vendors. And I'm just going to go ahead and commit them all. I'm going to say these are good. We're going to talk about it internally as a company. And then we're going to decide, yeah, we're going to do all this. So here you can actually see hitting best and locking in that price for each item in this single bid package for all 3 vendors. And then that'll update the estimate. Estimate will calculate all the amounts, show all the quotes on the right side, and give you your total price. You can affect the price adjustment and change out any of those fees at the bottom. And finally, prep your proposal. So you can select different proposal formats. If you have one built out specifically for change orders, you can use that. We have the time impact of how long it's going to be, which is going to show up on your proposal. You're going to have the punch duration as well that you can enter if you know how long that's going to be. And lastly is the proposal attachments, which is really important. It has that negotiated pricing summary on there and pricing detail that Mike talked about earlier that you may have decided on when you first did all of the proposal. And then everything will show up on that proposal you send out to the owner. So they'll have all of the information, all the cost codes, and also the affected vendors and everything else. Anything to add there, Mike?
I think as you can see, that's a huge time saver for your ops teams to be able to put together a conceptual estimate, incorporate the actual vendor pricing into your proposal, price it up in accordance with the unit prices, rates, and factors that are incorporated into the prime contract to generate a proposal with all the backup documentation right off the application. You can even send this right from RedTeam for signature. And so it becomes a fully end-to-end electronic process at that point.
All right, and that's all I got for the demo. Hope it was informative and help you guys get a better sense of what we have in RedTeam Flex.
Excellent, thank you, Neil. So to recap, we did notice some, particularly on our survey results, some people reported that they have challenges with using disconnected or standalone systems just because of the challenges in having disconnected systems. There's a lot of key benefits to utilizing pre-construction as part of a larger, complete construction management platform. Number one is efficiency. There's a lot less, there's no duplicate data entry when you go from maybe an opportunity to a project to bid, and from a pre-construction project into construction. There's zero duplicate data entry in any of those processes. It's systemically more efficient. Number two, continuity. Whenever you've got multiple systems involved, there's the risk that the layouts, the formats, even subtle differences from one system to another cause a loss of information from one system to the other. And it's a very dangerous thing on a construction project to lose any kind of information. But controlling that continuity from the first conversations about that opportunity all the way through final closeout is critical to the success of your projects. Number three, integrity. By using a complete platform solution, it's whole and complete. You've got really every aspect of running and supporting the project from beginning to end in one place. And lastly, I would say consistency. as your team grows and as personnel turnover, and just for the overall scalability of your business, the extent to which you're consistently performing the work that your team does enables you to have a lot of depth, bench strength, so that people could step in if necessary. And when everything is being managed consistently in the same manner, the same fashion, it makes it much easier to scale up and support your business as you're growing.
Yeah.
So, Josiah, next screen.
Yes, sir. So what's next? Well, what we have here, we have our two QR codes on the left. We have some resources available to you that kind of talk more about the releases that we talked about today. So if you would like to get more information on that, feel free to scan that QR code on the left. And then on the right, if you would like to have an actual demo, that request to schedule a demo. If you scan the QR code on the right, we can actually set that up, and someone will be in touch with you to set the actual demo up. So we definitely are excited to show you more about the pre-construction process. And so please reach out to us, and we'll be happy to give you some more information on that. And so at this time, what we're going to do is we're going to actually answer some of the questions that we received through the Q&A section. And so one of the questions we received is there a limit to how many users can collaborate on the cost estimate at the same time?
Well, I can answer that. The answer is no. There is no limit. One of the things that we see in our current market is people are pressed for time, and inevitably that means we have less time to turn around things like cost and pricing iterations. So having the ability of people to collaborate real time on the same estimate is a huge time saver, particularly as our teams are more dispersed. We've got a few people working at home in the industry. We've got multi-office contractors that are applying resources from other physical locations. The ability to work on the same document at the same time is really a game changer from an efficiency and a productivity standpoint. So we're really excited about the capability there. So no, there are no limits on that.
Thank you. Thank you for answering that. The next question that we have is, does the estimate support CSI standard cost codes?
We actually don't have any specific list of cost codes. We can load the traditional 16 division list of CSI. We can also load master format. It's entirely a user choice. And so whatever cost codes your team is accustomed to utilizing, those can be set up in the platform during the initial configuration. And you can add to it and change it at any time. It's completely controlled by our clients.
Awesome. And another question is, can I add the same cost code to multiple bid packages?
That's a great question. One of the weaknesses we do see in other applications is just limitations on the flexibility of creating your bid packages. There are times when you want to create a bid package that might include all electrical work, and you might want to actually see some scenarios in which maybe you split that bid package, and so you might create different versions of bid packages that include overlapping cost codes, and we completely support that process. RedTeam will handle that, and as you select best quotes, it'll completely handle and making sure that there's no redundancy, no duplication, and it'll update your cost estimate from that information.
Thank you for that. One more question is, can I split a bid package and award parts to more than one bidder?
Absolutely. I think we did cover this a little bit during our conversation. Yes, you can award multiple bids. I think the last example that Neil demonstrated on the change orders, where he actually selected 3 best quotes on a single bid package, and so that capability spans the entire system. And so whenever you have a scenario where you've got multiple bidders and you've got maybe a lot of different permutations of exclusions and inclusions, sometimes it makes sense to hire maybe more than one subcontractor to perform the work that you had originally envisioned to be done in a single bid package. So it's no problem doing that in the platform. We completely support that. And as I mentioned, as you start selecting best quotes, it really drives and reveals the analytics that are very helpful, where it starts identifying any scope overlap. So as you identify a best quote, it may create overlapping scope with some of your other bidders. And the system, the analytics actually reveal all that in a way that makes it very efficient and fast to reach out to those vendors, have a conversation about, inclusions or things that you want to remove from their scope, get their adjusted pricing, and very quickly, identify the team that's going to best support your project and best support the delivery of and the satisfaction of your clients' expectations.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate it. Well, at this time, that's all the questions that we've have at this time. So if you have any other questions, please we'll take a few more minutes to leave the meeting or the session open to answer them. But if not, that is the end of our session today. We're really happy that you can join us today to have this discussion, have this conversation. And so you'll be getting this link in your email following once this session is closed. And if you have any questions, like I said, please feel free to visit those 2 resource links that we presented on the previous slide. But other than that, we really thank you for coming, and we hope you guys have a great rest of your day.